The Senate has spoken up about it, but we're taking a look at all of those reactions here this morning. So we've got, as you may have seen, Mr. Sylvester Ibodage, who is the publisher of National Daily Newspapers. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Always a pleasure. Good morning, Nigeria.
Well, who knows, your correspondent may not have been able to access the Senate or the National Assembly if those guidelines had stuck. But I don't think this is the first time that this has been attempted to bring some sort of, a guideline for journalists to meet before they cover certain things. Once upon a time when it happened in the Senate, there was this fury, it died down. It came up again yesterday in the dailies, widely reported. Then this morning we've seen the rebuttal from the leadership of the National Assembly saying, look, we know nothing about this, we're going to investigate the matter. But some people will then tell you, having seen this happen twice, it may be a matter of time before it happens again.
Indeed, it's a matter of time before it happens again. Like they say, there is no smoke without fire. So the denial, as it were, or rebuttal by the leadership of the National Assembly, it's not sufficient. Because for me, it goes further to suggest that maybe they are not actually in control of the management, as it were, of the information, because they are the face, as it were, of the National Assembly.
So the clerk was not in conversation or communication with the leadership before
it is not possible.
Coming up with those guidelines? It
is not possible. The clerk will not act in isolation. Otherwise, in the coming hours, we should hear that certain, if possible, there will be a further statement to categorically, as it were, put the blame on the clerk, and then the clerk should also come out and explain how he came about issuing such a directive when in actual fact the people for whom he works, as it were, are not aware. So I know it's a damage control.
Do you say it's not possible for that to happen?
If that happens, then there is, that's what I'm saying. If that is the case, then we have even a much bigger problem that we're dealing with. I mean, there is no problem about putting in place criteria. You want to, I mean, in this day of, fake news, you have fake journalists, like in every profession, there are quacks. Maybe you want to put in place, criteria, you want to control, make sure that only the right people.
If you say that it's not possible that the leadership would not be aware of this, why would they want to do this? Because look, this is the twilight of the 8th Assembly. What would they stand to gain? Why would they want to do it? So whose interest is being protected there? Would it be the ones leaving or the incoming?
Well, I do not think it actually serves any interest, because it eventually portrays the National Assembly and its leadership in a very bad light.
So but wouldn't that give a measure of benefit of doubt on the leadership, the current leadership of the National Assembly? Because look, if they've been there all this while and they didn't have any reason to want to clamp down, in a manner of speaking, I stand corrected, why then would they want to bring this now?
It is something they always wanted to do, like you did remark earlier. It's something they always wanted to do. But apparently they were thinking that this is just, nobody would really consider it, it's something they've contemplated over time. But again, I have those concerns. And I'm like, in whose interest? Because this assembly, when it came under intense pressure during the invasion and all the crises it has gone through, the best friend the National Assembly had was the media. So what problem do they possibly have with the media?
And at that point, it didn't matter if they were quack
didn't matter because,
or anything like that.
Because all the tweets that were reproduced on various platforms, they were enjoying the mileage. So it didn't really matter who was helping to draw attention to their plight, as it were.
But if you look at the chronology of events leading up to the guidelines being announced, we saw that the Minister for Information, he came out to say that we're going to have a low-key celebration of the transition, and then June 12 also. And then we now come out. He now came out to read out this enormous list of what the activities are lined up for the inauguration, and then for June 12 too. And then we had this bombshell, as it were, the guidelines. When you look at the chronology, does it come to you as the government is trying to hide something in the first place?
Every government will always try to hide something. Not just this government, not the one before, and not even, I mean, every government, the ones before this and the ones that are coming, it is innate in every government to want to hide something. And that is why I think it's Section 22 of the Nigerian Constitution that empowers the media to draw public attention, to bring to the knowledge of the public every activity of government. Why would it be a matter of constitutional requirement, as it were, for the media to do this? Because even the Constitution recognizes the fact that government, by nature, will not want the people to know certain things.
So is this an afterthought, the guidelines? The announcement of the guidelines, was it an afterthought? Because it just came in almost 24 hours after the Minister for Information rolled out those modalities and then the plan for the inauguration.
You know, I think that because of the way the media space is expanding, is growing, today every agency of government, every institution, of course, they would have issues with the media, naturally. And they are constantly working hard to see how to keep the media away from its activities. So whether an afterthought, maybe not, but clearly it is something they've been working on. I mean, these are not guidelines that just, that just came from nowhere. It's been there. And that was the point I wanted to make earlier. All around the world, in the U.S. Congress, they have guidelines. But we are not against guidelines, all right? We want you to, be clear as to who, you need to know who is coming into your space. But to start demanding for task clearances and that you must have a print run or a circulation figure verifiable of not less than 40,000. Those are not, if you look at what the U.S. Congress is demanding, they're not looking, they're not asking for your print run. You just want to be sure that you're gainfully employed and that you will not abuse your privilege of having access to the chambers. And I think that is what we should be looking at, and not necessarily your task. They are not CAC, they are not FRS. So it's not their job to start asking for your task clearance.
Okay, so in what way does this release of the guideline and rebuttal show the strength or the weakness of the legislature as an institution?
That in itself is what we will be looking at over the next few hours. Haven't said, oh, we are not aware. So what next? Who did it and why did he or she do it? And what is going to happen, because it has brought the image of the National Assembly leadership, as it were, under questioning. And the burden of proof is on the leadership of the National Assembly. It's not just enough to say, oh, we are not aware, we didn't authorize it. So who did? And then what is going to happen to whoever authorized it?
Saraki said that he was investigating it. Saraki said he was going to investigate this. And then
so we are waiting for the outcome of that investigation. And that investigation shouldn't take forever. Because the office of the clerk is not far from his office. So whatever investigation should happen within the next few hours, Nigerians deserve to know. And the entire media, stakeholders, they are waiting.
So what if the report comes out and the leadership of the National Assembly blames it on some external forces, some fifth columnists trying to
mean like the rain?
Malign the image of the leadership of the legislature? Okay, it didn't come from the legislature at all; just came from somewhere.
So that perhaps doesn't that put paid to at least a lot of those speculations out there in terms of what's going to happen?
I think it's a wake-up call for the media. They must be on their watch, because once again, the attempts have failed. It is something they've always wanted to do, and it's something they someday would want to do. And why? I mean, the person at the level of a director actually is behind this. Was he acting in isolation?
So what you're saying is that, look, we're not against coming up with regulations to ensure that, you know, quacks don't find themselves there.
Oh, sure.
But you need to just work together and ensure, come up with something that works, since you already had a bylaw. So if they need to escalate that or develop it a little further. So that's the way it works.
Yeah, but the media must be on the watch out.
Do you think at any point there's been attempts to infringe on the freedom of information rights for the journalists, even with this action?
Well, it definitely infringes on it, because by reason of trying to come up with, I mean, criteria that don't have direct impact on the professional competence, as it were, of the individual. You know, it is not out to actually authenticate, you know, whether or not this person is coming from a known, recognized platform. But it was just an attempt to weed out a whole lot of, you know, media practitioners, as it were, from covering its activities.
Okay,
because when you look at those criteria, how many platforms can boast of being able to meet those criteria?
Well, now it's been withdrawn. They're working together, but
Hopefully.
they're also investigating the matter.
We wait for the outcome of that investigation. But while we wait for that outcome, we should not take our eyes off the ball.
Thank you for coming on, Sylvester Bodage, publisher, National Daily Newspaper. So we'll be back in a moment and toss it back to Abuja, where this began in the first place. Join us again.